can't believe it's already December. We need to finalize the holiday plans.
Lena Whitford gripped the handle of the shopping cart so tightly her knuckles went pale. The fluorescent lights of the suburban grocery store glared down like interrogators, reflecting harshly off the polished linoleum and amplifying the soft carols playing overhead. She should have been feeling festive. Instead, dread curled tightly in her chest. Her phone was pressed to her ear as she carefully navigated the crowded aisle, her mother's bright, sugar-coated voice dripping through the speaker. "Oh, sweetheart, Tiffany's wedding photos are absolutely stunning. She looks so fulfilled, and she's only 22. It really makes a mother think, doesn't it?" Lena's heartbeat stuttered. She was 27. A corporate litigation powerhouse, partner track, every hour of her life accounted for in billable time. Yet none of that mattered back home. "Mom, I'm really happy for her," Lena said evenly, steering around a pyramid of eggnog. "I just need to grab a few things before I drive out to the farm. I still have briefs to finish." "Of course, darling. Your aunts will be there this year again. They keep asking if you're bringing someone. I told them you were married to your job, but you know how they worry about you being alone." The word alone slid in like a blade wrapped in velvet. Lena swallowed. She had built a skyscraper of success in the city, but every Christmas she returned to stand trial before the quiet jury of her family, where promotions meant nothing next to an empty chair at dinner. Distracted by the familiar shame rising in her throat, she pushed forward without looking and slammed directly into a man. The cart crashed into his legs. A shelf rattled violently. Cans of cranberry sauce, olives, coffee tins, and jars of pickled onions rained down with a deafening metallic clatter. Lena gasped. Her phone slipped from her hand. The call disconnected. "I'm so sorry, oh my God, I'm so sorry," she breathed, crouching to chase a rolling can. A hand reached down beside hers, large, warm, steady. "No real damage done," a calm male voice said. Lena looked up. He was tall, dark-haired, sharply, dressed in a coat that probably cost more than her rent. His eyes were an intense pale green, unreadable and quietly amused. He smelled faintly of winter air and something expensive, woodsy, dangerous. "I think my entire life just exploded on aisle 7, she muttered without thinking. His lips curved slowly. "That bad, huh?" Mortified by her own honesty, Lena straightened. "Ignore me. Stress, family, Christmas, all the usual emotional crimes." He stacked the fallen cans with unhurried efficiency. "Sounds like a hostile takeover of your peace." She huffed, despite herself. "That's one way to put it. I'm being marched into a firing squad of well-meaning relatives who think my career is a tragic substitute for love." His brow lifted. "And what execution demand are they making this year?" "A fiancé," she replied softly, "or at least a serious boyfriend." For a moment he only studied her. Then something dangerous flickered behind his gaze. "I might be able to help with that." She blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You need a shield. I need an escape from a tedious life. We attend Christmas together. You survive your family. I enjoy the chaos. When it's over, we walk away." "You're serious?" she whispered. "Completely." She should have laughed, walked away, reported him to the sanity police. Instead, she found herself imagining her aunt's stunned silence. One Christmas without pity. Her pulse pounded. "I don't even know your last name." He smiled wider. "Julian. Julian Cross." 6 hours later, Lena was standing barefoot in her living room, drafting a fake relationship contract. Julian arrived just after midnight. His presence shifted the entire temperature of the room. Charcoal suit, crisp movements, eyes alert as if he was always measuring exits. She held up the pages like a shield. Rules, confidentiality, clear boundaries, no emotional attachment. Fixed term. Christmas only. He flipped through the pages, amused. "You really turned desperation into a legally binding nightmare." "I call it survival." He nodded. "2 conditions. First, no researching me, no background checks, no Googling." Her lawyer instinct screamed, "That's reckless." "That's the point." "And the second." "Midnight on Christmas Day," he said quietly. "This ends completely." Something in his tone felt final, not playful, guarded. She signed. The next morning, his luxury SUV rumbled. onto the muddy driveway of the Whitford family farm, like a panther stepping into a chicken coop. Lena's mother squealed. Her aunts circled Julian like hawks. He disarmed them effortlessly. Technology investor, flexible schedule, completely smitten with your daughter. Then the twins attacked. A rock-hard snowball struck Julian's head cleanly. Silence fell. Then he laughed and launched a full-scale snow war with the boys. That was the night. Lena felt the first crack in the wall she had spent a lifetime building. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, almost fragile. They had both assumed the guest house would have separate rooms. Instead, they stood frozen in the doorway, staring at a single narrow bed beneath a slanted wooden ceiling. Outside, snow whispered against the windows. Pillows were stacked down the middle. Clear boundaries drawn, yet tension lingered in the room, thick and unspoken. In the dark, when sleep refused to come, Julian finally spoke. "What are you really afraid of, Lena?" His voice was soft, careful, as though the wrong word might shatter something. She stared at the ceiling, breath shallow. "That I did everything right," she whispered. "Built a good life, worked hard, stayed safe, and still somehow missed the point of living." His silence wasn't empty. It felt weighted with understanding. From that night on, something shifted. The next 2 days unfolded like a dream she didn't trust herself to believe. Fireside laughter with her siblings. Midnight conversations that wandered into places she rarely let anyone see. Lingering looks that lasted half a second too long. Julian slipped into her family's chaos effortlessly, cooking beside her mother. Repairing loose hinges, letting the twins climb over him as if he'd always belonged there. He didn't flaunt his wealth. He didn't try to impress. That frightened Lena more than the money ever could. Then the signs began. A black SUV parked too long at the edge of the property. Phone calls Julian took outside, voice low, shoulders tense. A dark bruise along his ribs he brushed off as nothing. On Christmas Eve, unease gnawed at her until she followed him into the barn just after midnight. She saw the man waiting for him, armed, watching and looking dangerous. She heard a name whispered like a curse. Cross. Before she could step back, a hand clamped over her mouth. The world went black. She woke tied to a chair in a freezing sheep shed. Wrists burning, breath fogging the air. A man paced before her, smile thin and cruel. "You were never supposed to be part of this, Lena," he said calmly. "Your leverage." Her blood ran cold. "They didn't tell you who Julian really is, did they?" The truth spilled like poison. Julian Cross wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was the financial architect who had exposed one. For years, he had been working under federal supervision, helping dismantle a syndicate laundering billions through tech ventures and offshore accounts. And her father, her quiet, kind father who died in a so-called factory accident, had been the original whistleblower. The accident hadn't been an accident. Julian had been sent to quietly protect Lena, to observe, to ensure she wasn't targeted next. Their meeting in the grocery store hadn't been coincidence, but neither had the way he looked at her. When the shed door burst open and Julian stormed in, blood on his sleeve, guns shaking in his hand, the mask finally fell. "I never planned to care," he said hoarsely to the men surrounding them. "But she's not part of this. Let her go." Lena's tears burned. "You lied to me." He met her gaze, raw and unguarded. "At first. Then you became the only truth I had left." Gunshots shattered the night. Police sirens tore through the silence. Julian took a bullet shielding Lena as officers swarmed the property. The barn dissolved into chaos, but the truth survived. In the weeks that followed, investigations uncovered everything. Audio recordings, financial trails, signed confessions. Julian was cleared completely. He was not a criminal. He was a witness and a protector, a man who had risked everything. Thereafter, the syndicate collapsed. Lena returned to the city, heart bruised but alive in a way it hadn't been in years. Winter came again. On Christmas morning, a message popped up in her phone. "If you're willing to forgive me, meet me where it all began." She stood once more in aisle 7, beneath harsh fluorescent lights, hands trembling. Julian waited at the end. This time, there were no secrets left between them. Love had been born from a lie, but it survived the truth. And this time, everything about it was real. She felt so nervous that she almost turned back, but she did not. Standing there in aisle 7, surrounded by canned soup and blinking sale signs, Lena felt young again, small, uncertain, afraid of wanting something that might disappear. Then she saw him. Julian stood at the far end of the aisle, hands shoved into the pockets of his coat, like he didn't quite trust himself not to reach for her. He looked different, thinner, scarred in ways no tailor could hide. But his eyes? Those were the same, steady, searching, hopeful in a way that hurt to see. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world hummed around them. Shopping carts rattled past. Christmas music played softly overhead, something about coming home. "I didn't know if you'd come," Julian said finally, his voice rough. "I didn't know if I should," Lena replied honestly. He nodded. "I wouldn't have blamed you." Silence stretched between them, heavy with everything they had never said. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a folded paper. "The case is closed," he said quietly. "All of it. My name's clean. Your father's too. They officially called him what he always was, a hero." Lena's breath caught. Tears blurred her vision before she could stop them. "Thank you," she whispered, not just for her father, but for the way Julian had stepped into the fire when he didn't have to. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," he continued, "or to make promises. I just needed you to know the truth, all of it, and to tell you that loving you was never part of the assignment. It was the one thing I didn't plan, and the one thing I'd do all over again." Her chest ached. She had built her life on caution, on self-control, on surviving without needing too much. Julian had shattered all of it in the middle of Christmas lights and falling snow. Slowly, Lena closed the distance between them. "I spent months telling myself it was easier to forget you," she said. "But every time I heard Christmas music, every time I smelled pine or cinnamon or saw the first snow, you were there. In all of it." His eyes softened. "I fell in love with you at the worst possible time," she continued. "And somehow, the most beautiful." She reached for his hand. Julian's breath hitched as their fingers intertwined, like he'd been holding it since the night everything fell apart. "I don't know what comes next," she said, "but I know this one thing. Christmas found me when I wasn't looking, and it didn't bring gifts or miracles." She smiled through tears. "It brought you." Outside, snow began to fall, soft and steady, like the world offering them a second chance. They stood there for a long moment, holding hands beneath fluorescent lights, wrapped in ordinary magic. People think Christmas is just about lights, carols, and wrapped gifts. But what if I told you that sometimes, right when the year is ending and the nights feel coldest, two hearts meet, walls come down, and love quietly begins, turning an ordinary December into a season you remember for the rest of your life? Because sometimes the greatest love stories don't begin with perfection. They begin with truth and forgiveness and the quiet, astonishing grace of falling in love at Christmas. When hearts are open, walls come down, and even broken beginnings can become something beautiful.